I think it's safe to say that change is on my agenda. Change for good. And I embrace that and I enjoy that change. I don't fear it.
Prince William entered the private council room expecting a routine briefing. Instead, he found a sealed folder bearing Queen Camilla's personal insignia and the name of a former palace employee who had vanished quietly from royal service months earlier. What William read inside did not merely embarrass the Queen. It revealed a private side agreement, hidden payments, confidential access, and a promise that appeared to bypass the future king's authority entirely. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. William opened the file during a restricted review of household spending and security permissions, expecting routine Windsor staffing records. A restricted review is a closed examination for senior officials because it involves private money, access, and internal risk. Yet this folder carried Camilla's private office mark, not the king's household seal. It meant the arrangement had been created outside the normal chain of responsibility. The prince read the agreement twice. Camilla had signed a private deal with Eleanor Harcourt, a former senior palace staff member, promising continued payments, entry to royal residences, and protection from internal questioning. In return, Eleanor would remain silent about sensitive household decisions and continue advising the Queen after leaving official service. William pushed back his chair, placed both hands on the table, and felt the betrayal settle deeper than anger. The money disturbed him, but the secrecy wounded him more. Camilla had built a hidden channel capable of shaping staffing choices, family access, and information, without answering to him or Catherine. The future king understood why that mattered. Whoever controlled access could influence decisions before they reached the people publicly responsible for making them. William turned to the clause marked continuity measures. The phrase meant steps designed to preserve authority during a future change in leadership. Another line promised to protect the Queen's position during transition, the period when Charles's influence might weaken and William's authority would rise. Suddenly, this was no favor to a loyal employee. It looked like preparation for a reign that had not yet begun. The security records made the discovery darker. Eleanor had entered Clarence House and Windsor Castle several times after leaving royal service, using temporary credentials issued through Camilla's private secretary. Those visits proved the agreement remained active, and the former aide had never truly disappeared. William did not confront Camilla. He photographed the key pages, summoned Princess Anne, and placed the evidence before her. Anne read in silence until he finally asked, "How long has she been building this?" Anne's answer does not calm William, it leads him directly toward the woman whose silence had kept the arrangement alive. The agreement involved more than a queen protecting a loyal employee. It connected three people whose futures inside the monarchy were moving in opposite directions. Camilla was fighting to preserve her influence. William was preparing to inherit responsibility for the institution. And Eleanor Harcourt, once trusted with the palace's most private conversations, had become the invisible bridge between them, carrying secrets from one royal era toward the next. Eleanor had spent 11 years as Deputy Director of Household Coordination, a senior role that placed her close to private schedules, guest approvals, internal disputes, and communication between Camilla's office and the major royal residences. Household coordination simply meant controlling the people, meetings, and information moving through palace life. It gave her access few employees ever received, and it taught her where pressure could be applied without anyone noticing. Camilla valued that discretion. Whenever family tensions sharpened, Eleanor handled delicate requests quietly, avoided unnecessary written records, and protected the Queen from embarrassment. Their connection soon moved beyond professional loyalty. The former aide became someone she trusted with fears she would never voice before senior courtiers, especially the fear that her position rested entirely on Charles. Camilla understood the danger clearly. While the king remained strong, her place seemed secure. But once William controlled the royal household, her advisors could be removed, her ceremonial role reduced, and access for her family restricted. The Queen did not simply fear losing influence. She feared becoming tolerated rather than respected, present but powerless inside the institution she had struggled so long to enter. William saw the same arrangement from the opposite side. To him, secret influence threatened Catherine, their children, and the stable structure he hoped to pass to George. Every hidden channel weakened the authority of those expected to carry responsibility in public. If Camilla could shape access and staffing through Eleanor, then decisions affecting the next generation could be altered before the prince even learned they existed. William carried the file to Catherine and placed it before her without explanation. She read the access clause slowly, then returned to the sentence promising continued advice after Eleanor's departure. Catherine finally looked at him and said, "This was designed to survive a change of reign." Her calm voice confirmed what anger had already told him. The agreement exposed another deception. Eleanor's departure had been explained publicly as exhaustion, yet encrypted messages, private meetings, and instructions delivered outside formal channels showed she had never truly left Camilla's service. More troubling still, Charles had not signed the document. His office appeared only once, in a direction keeping the arrangement separate from the king's principal household accounts. William acted immediately. He ordered his private secretary to contact Eleanor directly. She agreed to meet, but demanded one condition: Camilla must not be told beforehand. Before Eleanor can explain why she accepted the deal, William must understand the moment that made Camilla believe such secrecy was necessary. Every royal secret begins with a moment someone believes must never be repeated. For Camilla, that moment came during a winter reception at Windsor, when a routine change to the evening's seating plan exposed how quickly her authority could be challenged. A quiet disagreement became a public humiliation. A loyal aide watched the Queen's face change. And before the palace lights were extinguished that night, the first promise behind the secret agreement had already been made. Tension had been building for months. William's office was reviewing duplicated household roles, private advisors, and informal permissions that allowed decisions to move without clear oversight. Several employees connected to Camilla were warned that their positions could be reduced, transferred, or absorbed into a tighter structure. To the prince, the review was necessary preparation for the monarchy's future. To the Queen, it felt like the slow removal of everything she had built. Eleanor responded by becoming Camilla's shield. Whenever requests from the Queen's office were questioned, the trusted aide stepped forward, softened objections, and kept sensitive disputes away from formal records. She also learned which courtiers supported William's reforms and which remained personally loyal to Camilla. That knowledge made her valuable, but it also placed her at the center of a conflict no servant could control forever. The breaking point came at a private Windsor reception for senior Commonwealth representatives. The principal table, the main seating arrangement reserved for the most important guests, had been altered after approval from William's office. 2 people personally invited by Camilla had been removed, and no one had warned her before she arrived. Camilla stood beside the revised seating chart while guests began entering. She asked Eleanor whether William had authorized the change. The aide hesitated, then quietly confirmed that he had. The Queen folded the card once, placed it down, and said, "Then I know exactly where I stand." Eleanor heard no anger in her voice. That restraint made the moment more dangerous. Later, Camilla confronted Charles in his dressing room. She told the king that her authority was being weakened through small decisions designed to appear harmless. He insisted the seating change was administrative, but she heard surrender where he intended reassurance. Charles tried to calm her. She left believing he had failed to understand the threat. After midnight, Camilla summoned Eleanor without secretaries present. She asked whether the aide would continue protecting her interests once William controlled the household. Eleanor agreed to preserve confidential records, maintain trusted contacts, and warn her about decisions that threatened her position. A private solicitor turned that verbal promise into a written contract weeks later. William now understood the agreement had another purpose. Eleanor could shape access, control information, and delay decisions before they reached Camilla. Armed with the history behind the agreement, William walks into his first direct confrontation with Camilla and refuses to let Charles stand between them. There were no advisors in the room, no secretaries taking notes, and no carefully prepared palace language to soften what came next. William placed the agreement in front of Camilla and waited. She recognized it immediately. For several seconds, neither spoke. Then the future king asked the question she had spent months avoiding. Why had the queen created a private structure designed to operate beyond his authority? William had chosen the meeting carefully. He asked Camilla to come to a small audience room at Windsor, a private chamber used for sensitive conversations away from the larger royal household. Charles was excluded. Catherine was not present. No palace official stood nearby to shape the exchange or rescue either of them from the truth. The prince wanted her first answer, not a polished defense prepared by advisors. Camilla entered expecting another argument about staffing. William slid the copied pages across the table. She stopped before taking her seat, read the opening line, and slowly removed her gloves without looking at him. That pause told him everything. She did not ask where the document came from. She did not deny its existence. William accused her directly. The agreement, he said, had created an unofficial court inside the official household. An unofficial court meant a private circle of advisors and loyal staff operating beyond normal royal oversight. To him, it was clear preparation for a future in which Charles could no longer defend her influence, and William held greater control. Camilla refused to accept that version. She said his advisors had already begun treating her as temporary, someone whose authority would disappear the moment the king's strength faded. The arrangement, she insisted, protected her charities, her staff, her dignity, and her ability to continue serving Charles without being quietly erased by the next reign. William then produced the security records. Eleanor had entered royal residences repeatedly after leaving palace employment. Camilla admitted approving those visits, but when he demanded to know what they discussed, she refused. Her silence changed the argument. It suggested there were still secrets beyond the agreement. William told her he would have guaranteed her respect and security if she had come to him honestly. Camilla's answer cut deeper than any legal clause. She said she could not trust promises from a man who had never forgiven what her presence had cost his mother. William rose sharply. Anger surged, but he did not shout. He closed the folder and said, "Do not use my grief to justify your deception." For the first time, Camilla's confidence broke. The prince gave her until the following morning to surrender every message, payment record, and instruction connected to Eleanor. Camilla refused. By refusing William's demand, Camilla turns a private betrayal into a struggle over who truly controls the palace. Royal power rarely announces itself with raised voices. It moves through signatures, access codes, household warrants, and decisions made across polished tables. When Camilla refused to surrender her private communications, William stopped arguing as a stepson and began acting as the future sovereign. Yet the decisive figure was not the prince alone. It was Princess Anne, who understood exactly where personal loyalty ended and constitutional responsibility began. William knew he could not simply punish the queen. Her status placed her beyond any impulsive household order, and one reckless move could turn a private breach into a public family war. He therefore requested a restricted review, a closed examination involving only senior officials with authority over security, finance, and royal administration. The king's principal private secretary attended alongside security officers, financial controllers, and Anne as the senior royal witness. Anne entered without anger. She had no wish to humiliate Camilla, but she understood the danger of an unofficial chain of command. Such a chain allowed instructions to move through private loyalties instead of accountable authority. Years of royal service had taught her that small exceptions could become permanent systems, and both William and Charles trusted her to separate personal pain from institutional risk. Anne read every page slowly. She paused when she reached the clause giving Eleanor advance warning of staffing changes. Then she removed her glasses, placed them beside the file, and looked directly at William. This was not loyalty, she said. It was interference. Her judgment changed the atmosphere. The agreement could no longer be dismissed as a frightened woman protecting an old friend. Charles was called in next. The review showed that private money had funded Eleanor, but the arrangement had affected official access, security permissions, and palace decisions. The king wanted to defend his wife's intentions. Yet he could not ignore that Camilla had concealed a working system inside his own household. Charles reached the signature page and stopped. He recognized her name immediately. For several seconds he said nothing. Then he set the file down and turned away from the table. When the principal secretary asked whether he had authorized the agreement, the monarch answered with one word: no. The investigation then widened. Eleanor had contacted 3 serving employees after leaving royal service. 2 changed meeting schedules following her messages. A 3rd delayed a briefing meant for William's office, giving Camilla time to prepare before the prince learned what was happening. William acted. He permanently canceled Eleanor's credentials, suspended every advisory payment, and ordered all communications preserved for examination. Anne supported each measure, giving the decision both moral force and royal authority. Charles refused to let an aide deliver the restrictions. He chose to tell Camilla himself. The agreement has now been stripped of its power, but the emotional cost reaches Camilla only when Charles walks into her room carrying William's decision. Camilla had expected resistance from William. She had expected Anne's disapproval and the cold judgment of senior courtiers. What she had not prepared for was Charles entering her private sitting room without an aide, closing the door, and placing the suspension order beside her untouched tea. The man she believed would always shield her had come not as a husband offering comfort, but as a king acknowledging that she had crossed a line. Charles did not begin with accusation. He explained that Eleanor had lost all palace access. Every remaining payment had been blocked, and staff members linked to her unofficial network had been removed from sensitive duties, while the internal review continued. An internal review was a private examination of conduct, records, and responsibility inside the royal household. This one mattered because the agreement had touched both personal loyalty and official security. Camilla listened without interrupting. Her own office would now operate under tighter control. Temporary access credentials could no longer be issued by her staff alone, and unscheduled visits to royal residences required security approval. These restrictions were not symbolic. They cut directly into the private freedom she had tried to preserve. The Queen picked up the order and read it slowly while Charles remained standing. Her hand trembled when she reached the line forbidding Eleanor from contacting any serving household employee. That single sentence ended the hidden channel completely. For the first time, Camilla understood that the system she had built in fear had been dismantled without her consent. Camilla finally asked whether he had defended her. Charles said he had defended her intentions, but he could not defend the method. She absorbed the distinction in silence. To her, it meant royal duty had become stronger than the private bond she believed would always protect her. Charles then revealed his own wound. The most painful discovery, he said, was not the money or even the secret access. It was learning that she believed she needed a hidden structure while sharing a home, a marriage, and a reign with him. The king had thought their partnership was her security. Camilla had treated it as temporary shelter. She admitted the truth at last. She feared William would isolate her once Charles's reign ended. She believed Eleanor could preserve her voice when official doors began closing and loyal faces began disappearing. Camilla asked him to restore the payments privately, not as a royal order, but as an act of loyalty. Charles refused. He removed his reading glasses and said the monarchy could not demand transparency from others while hiding its own arrangements. After he left, William received Eleanor's message. She would speak, but only without lawyers, courtiers, or recording devices. The agreement has collapsed. Yet Eleanor's final confession will decide whether Camilla acted from fear alone or from a deeper plan to control the future. Eleanor Harcourt arrived without palace credentials, legal advisors, or the confidence she once carried through royal corridors. Across from William, she appeared not as the architect of a conspiracy, but as a woman exhausted by a promise she had come to regret. With no institution between them and no queen present to shape the account, Eleanor finally explained why she accepted the arrangement, and why she now believed Camilla had lost control of what fear persuaded her to create. William met her in a modest sitting room at a royal estate office far from Windsor. Only Catherine knew where he had gone. and no serving courtier was present to interrupt, advise, or record the exchange. The prince wanted a direct account. Eleanor wanted one final chance to speak before the palace defined her motives for her. Eleanor began without excuses. She placed an expired access card and a small office key on the table between them. Temporary access meant limited permission to enter restricted royal spaces without holding a permanent palace role. Camilla had once told her those items represented a door that must never be allowed to close completely. Now the former aide returned them as proof that the hidden connection was over. Eleanor admitted that loyalty had drawn her into the agreement. Years earlier, Camilla had supported her during a family crisis and protected her position when senior staff wanted her removed. Accepting the private arrangement had felt like repayment, not betrayal. She believed she was helping a woman who had once helped her survive. The demands changed slowly. Eleanor was asked to monitor staffing decisions, identify officials who supported William's reforms, and warn the Queen before changes affecting her household became final. Gratitude turned into obligation. Each request seemed small, yet together they formed a private system designed to influence decisions before the future king could act. William asked the hardest question directly. Had Camilla planned to undermine him, Catherine, or their children? Eleanor said no. She explained that the arrangement was defensive, built to preserve influence, resist isolation, and keep loyal channels open after power passed from Charles to his son. There had been no order to destroy William. There had only been fear of disappearing beneath his reign. Eleanor then repeated a remark Camilla had made during a recorded private conversation preserved in her written account. When the king is gone, they will remember the scandal before they remember the service. William finally saw the deeper wound. This was not ambition alone. It was insecurity hardened into secrecy. The prince chose restraint. He would expose the agreement and its consequences, but protect private family conversations unrelated to official conduct. He asked Catherine and Anne to help prepare a statement that admitted the breach, without turning Camilla into either a victim or a monster. William has chosen accountability without revenge. But once the palace statement reaches the public, the private pain will become a national judgment. By sunrise, the secret arrangement no longer belonged to Windsor's locked rooms. It belonged to breakfast television, newspaper presses, and the crowd gathering beyond the palace gates. The public did not see every clause or hear every private confession. They saw something simpler and more powerful. William had discovered that Camilla maintained an unofficial channel through a former employee, and he had dismantled it before it could shape the monarchy's next chapter. The palace statement arrived with unusual precision. It confirmed that a private advisory agreement involving a former household employee had operated outside normal reporting structures. Those structures were the official lines through which palace decisions, spending, and access were meant to be approved. The announcement also made clear that every payment, permission, and informal duty connected to the arrangement had ended. William's role stood at the center of the message. The review had been initiated by the Prince of Wales and supported by Charles and Princess Anne. That wording mattered. It showed the future king not as an angry son attacking his father's wife, but as the royal figure enforcing accountability inside the institution he would one day lead. Outside Windsor Castle, a newspaper vendor unfolded the morning edition of the Chronicle. William's image dominated the front page beneath the enormous headline, "The Hidden Court. William ends Camilla's secret network." Within minutes, the words appeared across phones near the Henry VIII gate, the entrance used for access to the castle's lower ward. Visitors gathered around the headline. Some spoke with anger. Others lowered their voices as though the family itself might hear them. One woman looked toward the gate and said, "He protected the crown without destroying his father." Broadcasters repeated the remark throughout the day because it captured the conflict perfectly. William had acted firmly, yet refused to turn the exposure into revenge. Camilla watched the coverage alone at Clarence House. Commentators argued over whether she had acted from manipulation or fear. One presenter described the agreement as an attempt to preserve influence beyond Charles's reign. The Queen turned off the television before the debate ended. She had feared being erased. Now the secrecy meant to protect her had become the reason the public questioned her place. Sympathy divided sharply. Many condemned the hidden payments and private access. Others saw the insecurity of a woman who believed history would always remember scandal before service. The story was no longer a simple triumph for William, or a complete humiliation for Camilla. It had become a national argument about power, loyalty, and fear. That afternoon, Charles and William attended a scheduled engagement together. Before stepping forward, the king briefly touched his son's arm, then walked beside him. The gesture signaled unity, but not peace. With pressure rising, Charles summoned Camilla, William, Catherine, and Anne to Windsor. The world has delivered its judgment loudly, but the final verdict will be spoken behind closed doors, by the family forced to live with what the agreement revealed. The final meeting did not end with exile, revenge, or a dramatic removal of titles. It ended with something quieter and more permanent: boundaries. William had proved that Camilla could not build authority outside the structures he would one day inherit. Camilla had been forced to confront the fear that drove her into secrecy. And Charles, caught between love and duty, made the decision that defined the closing chapter of the crisis. Charles brought William, Camilla, Catherine, and Anne together at Windsor without advisors or household officials. The corrective measures had already been approved, so no one entered that room to debate procedure. What remained was the personal reckoning. Every person present understood why it mattered. The monarchy could survive public criticism, but it could not survive private systems that weakened trust from within. The king spoke first. Camilla could retain her ceremonial household and charitable staff, but all security access, senior appointments, and transition planning would now require official joint oversight. Joint oversight meant that major decisions could no longer be approved by one private office alone. Charles delivered the ruling calmly, yet he knew it wounded the woman beside him. Camilla did not argue. She admitted that fear had driven her to create the agreement, because she believed she would become powerless and unwanted after Charles's reign. The Queen did not ask for Eleanor's return. Instead, she accepted that secrecy had transformed a real concern into a breach of trust, leaving her less secure than before. William answered without triumph. He told Camilla that he would not seek her humiliation, remove her dignity, or turn the crisis into public revenge. But the prince made one boundary absolute: private loyalty would never again overrule institutional responsibility. His restraint carried more force than anger because it showed he had already moved beyond personal resentment. Charles formally supported his son's decision. The monarch's choice was painful, but unmistakable. By siding with the future, he proved that protecting the succession mattered more than shielding his wife from every consequence. Catherine offered the final path forward. She told Camilla that future cooperation had to begin with direct conversation, not secret channels. The Queen nodded, understanding that trust could return only through honesty. Anne then witnessed the original agreement being formally invalidated and placed into restricted archival custody, meaning it would remain preserved but inaccessible to ordinary palace staff. Eleanor stayed outside royal service. Every payment remained terminated, and the hidden network ended permanently. The crisis closes with the monarchy intact, Camilla diminished but not destroyed, Charles saddened but decisive, and William recognized as a future king who chose duty over vengeance and accountability over silence. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.